What is up? Wait for it. What is up? Quazi here, and today I'm just running some quick errands for my parents, and you can hear my music and understand my taste in music today. But in this drive, this beautiful drive on a rather gloomy day, what I want to talk to you today about is res interna versus res externa. So what this concept is basically something discussed by David R. Hawkins. And David R. Hawkins is a renowned spiritualist and spiritual teacher who recently passed away, well, a couple years ago. But as many of you know, he had books called Power versus Force, Truth versus Falsehood, The Stairway to Enlightenment. But what he talks about in most of his books is this very important concept of res interna versus res externa. And what that means is res interna is something that we perceive inwards. So res interna is the world as we perceive it. And res externa is the world as it is. So as I've gone through life and as I've dabbled in spiritual concepts, I've found that there is a certain level of absolute truth and a certain level of relative truth to anything in life. There is a part of reality which you perceive it based on your belief systems, and your reality will be shaped based on what you believe and what you think about yourself. And res externa is the world as it is. And there is also a part of reality that exists independent of your beliefs. That's why there can be said that there are deeper principles to life, such as the law of attraction. Whatever you believe manifests itself into reality. So in a way, res interna is actually res externa, and it can get very complicated at times, and also very paradoxical at times, but it just is what it is. So I found that if you believe something, that's how your reality unfolds. So if I believe that I'm rich, then my reality will be that I am rich. And if I believe that I'm poor and I'm ugly, then people will start treating me as though I'm poor and ugly. And that's the law of attraction, and that's what res interna is. But res externa is something that's the deeper principle of life. So the principle of presence and being present to the moment and getting control of your life. So presence is a very deep principle of life. As you're more present, you'll start to see that you start to control more of your life. And that's res externa. And there are other res externa principles, but those can't really be seen and you can't really deduce them, because once you notice them, they break down and don't become res externa anymore. There is this saying in the spiritual community that which you can see, you can control, but that which you cannot see controls you. So with that, I ask you to actually evaluate what you believe, because a lot of our reality is shaped by the res interna and the way we perceive our lives. And res externa is just something that's more subtle, more nuanced, but as you get really deep into a skill and a craft, you'll find that res externa principles, so the deeper principles of life are being unfolded to you, and you can learn much easier. So any single trade, any single skill that you're trying to develop, whether it be making money or going to the gym, you'll find that there are a lot of these principles that are in common when building any of these skills. And that's what res externa is. So these deeper principles can be applied to any aspect of life. Okay, so the concept of res interna is so powerful. And the things and the stories that we actually tell ourselves is that this is so key, because every day we go about our lives and there are these things that we believe about ourselves, and these things and these stories that we tell ourselves every day, that's what's actually helping us or hindering us from getting the things that we want. And especially because I've read this segment in Dean Graciosi's book, A Millionaire Success Habits, and he says that everyone possesses these inner demons and inner villains and also an inner hero. It just depends on what we feed, which hero or which villain, which one are we feeding every single day. So what we're focusing on every single day is what's becoming prominent and manifesting into our lives. So if you choose to focus on the negatives and become prevention oriented, then you'll live your life in a scarcity mindset and you'll manifest just the negatives. So if I keep focusing on the things that I don't want to happen to me, then that will manifest, because the universe doesn't understand between positive and negative, and that in reality, and like the ultimate res externa truth, what I found is that the universe doesn't understand what yes or no is. There is no duality, there just is. So if you keep focusing on the things that you don't want to happen to you, most of the times they will happen. This is why sometimes when you really don't want something to happen, like you really don't want to fail your exam, or you really don't want to be late for work, then that's exactly what happens. You like just magically manifest. The worst thing you hold in mind tends to manifest. That's why I ask you to actually be very careful in what you believe in, and always focus on being solution oriented rather than prevention oriented. So if anything in your life happens where, let's say, something really bad happens to you, God forbid, if something really bad happens to you, if you focus more on getting revenge because of something bad happening to you instead of focusing on the solution, then you're going to actually get into a lot of trouble, because you're focusing on the problem now, and instead of focusing on how to solve the problem, you're focusing on the problem itself. So the problem actually is becoming a continuation into your life. Whatever event occurs, there's always going to be a little bit of positive and a little bit of negative. You just have to pick out what's positive. So in everything in life, there's always going to be beauty in it. It's just up to you to look for it. I know a lot of people who are very spiritually enlightened, so they could like lose lots of money. They could just lose $1 million, but they would still like find it in themselves to look for the positives in it. And of course, it's not a matter of joke, we're losing a lot of money like that, but it is your attitude that really matters, because misfortunes are really, it's just a way of life. It's always going to happen. But if you keep focusing on the misfortune, and you keep focusing on what's missing, and you keep complaining about the things that's happened to you, oh, it's not fair, and you just linger on the victim mindset, then you're just still going to be a victim, and your life is just going to manifest in a way which reflects your reality. So I ask you to always be solution oriented, and also to focus on the positives. And that is what the concept of res interna is. Basically, your perceptions and what you believe and what you feel every single day, how you live your life, whichever story you're telling yourself, whether it's the inner villain or the inner hero you're feeding, that's what's going to grow. And whatever you focus your thoughts on tends to manifest into reality. So be careful on what you believe. Be careful not to believe in everything society tells you, because we're very innocent creatures and we'll literally believe anything we're told. The media, whatever it convinces us, we'll just believe it. Okay, so to really get down to the brass tacks of this video and the concepts of res interna and res externa, what I ask you to do from now on, for the next few days even, just be very conscious of your thoughts. And every time you find yourself with a problem, so you're faced with a problem, see how your natural being reacts to the problem. Are you constantly complaining about it, or are you looking for solutions? Most of the time, even myself, I find that most of the time whenever I'm faced with a problem, I'm just complaining about it. I'm just looking for the negatives and looking for a way to excuse myself in order to not have the burden of life on my shoulders. But in all truth, we are all responsible for the things that are happening to us, whether consciously or subconsciously. We've just attracted it into our lives somehow, and we need to deal with it. It's how we deal with the problem that actually determines the strength of our character. So what I ask you to do really is to be conscious for the next few days. Be conscious about your thoughts and your feelings, and every time you're faced with a decision or even a problem that comes up in your life, just be conscious of how you're reacting to this problem. And once you catch yourself in the moment where you're complaining about it, just stop and reframe it and look for solutions. So the next time you find yourself with no food in the house and you start complaining, well, there is no food in the house, there's never any food in the house, blah, 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 complain, just look for a solution. And I assure you, once you start becoming more conscious of your life and more conscious of your thoughts, you start taking control of your own thoughts and you start manifesting your own reality. And that is why I always try to live my life as consciously as possible. And that's why the principle of presence is so important, and being present to the moment is so important. Because the more present you are, the more present to the moment you are, the more in control of your thoughts you are, and the more in control of your thoughts and your feelings you are, the more of the reality you want to manifest, the more of the reality that you want to control, you're able to control. So you only control whatever you're consciously aware of. And that's what we want to do. We don't want to subconsciously manifest things based on however our subconscious was programmed, based on how we actually grew up. We want to be able to consciously control our lives. So that's actually the concept of res interna, and that's what I wanted to focus on today. Res externa is something that's more the world as it is, and most of the times we're not really at a stage where we can comprehend the world as it is, because a lot of our thoughts and a lot of our feelings are clouding our judgment. So only people who are truly enlightened, spiritual gurus who are truly enlightened, can perceive the world as it is, because you remove all the clouds of thoughts, all the clouds of judgment, and you can just see the world as it is and accept it the way it is. So res externa is something that you get to at higher levels, and when you get deeper into something such as a skill. So in any single skill that you try to master and sharpen, you'll see that as you keep doing it for a long enough time, that there are deeper principles that can be applied to any single aspect of life. Anyway, thank you for watching this video. Till next time.